Hello, my name's Dan, aka Lucent. I'm a singer-songwriter, and today I'm going to be giving you my impressions and my initial reaction to Miss Americana, the Taylor Swift documentary on Netflix. Let's go. Okay, so I just finished watching Miss Americana and I thought I'd give you my impressions in a similar way to the Long Pond studio sessions. If you caught my reaction to that video in a similar format. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content, and please like the video to help it in the rankings and stuff. Yeah, I'd really appreciate that. Yeah, so I've literally just finished watching it, and my first thought that I just wanted to share is that it really feels like it's really filled in all of the cracks. It gives context to the songs and makes me really understand where she was coming from. It really feels like all the puzzle pieces have kind of slotted together with all this music I've been discovering of Taylor's over the last year. The context surrounding by like what her mental state was. There's so much that she went through. I really feel for her, and actually getting to really see that unfold was really, really interesting. Yeah, so like it really kind of gave us like a full portrayal of where she came from, what she went through, and then who she became at the end. So Taylor Swift got so big from such a young age, and she was still learning. That's the thing that really got me, was that she was so young. She was like 17, 18, 19 when like she started getting really big, and she's still learning, like even younger than that, even like 16, you know? And all those things that you learn that are so formative at that age, she learned in front of like millions of people screaming her name. And basically she learnt to put all of her self-worth on what people were saying about her. One of my favorite quotes that was just so like devastating was how she said the sound of the clapping like drowns out the thoughts of her not being good enough. And it's like that idea that she feels like she needs other people to tell her that she's good enough in order for her to have any kind of happiness and self-fulfillment. And as she kind of sets up, when that all goes wrong, you know, what happens? You know, you just fall apart. If you don't have that, then you just fall apart. It's such an unfortunate side effect of her like massive success, and to kind of then see her then go through the subsequent stuff was even more heartbreaking because of what we learned, and because of like how she kind of let us in on that initial journey. So that was the beginning. It really kind of set us up and really kind of showed us who she was before and how she wanted to be a good girl. She said she just wanted to smile and wave and be the good girl. She just wanted to make other people happy, and it all built up to this point where it had to all break down for her to then build herself back up. Let's move on to like the middle section, right? So this is kind of when everything kind of started happening to her. So she talks about that when she was 17 at the MTV Awards with Kanye coming and storming the stage, like that was just like so bad, wasn't it? Like it's just deplorable, really. Like you've all heard my opinions on Kanye West. So all this stuff happened with Kanye, and a lot of people were coming out against Kanye, but what she heard when she was on the stage was all the booing, and at that moment in time she didn't realize that they were booing him and not her. And it kind of is the first instance of somebody who's built up to like put all of their self-worth on the acceptance of the crowd. When you have a whole bunch of people that you think are booing you, what happens? And it affected her greatly, like hugely, I think, more than it would most people, because of the way that she'd been kind of like set up, and the way that her career and like what she had to do for her job defined who she was as a person at such a formative age. And you can't just shake it off. And then she sang All Too Well, and I was like, oh my god, no. I've just written in capital letters, oh god, All Too Well, no. Like, because then that was like Red and 1989, and at that point she then took that negative energy that she got from the first lot of Kanye drama and took it and proved herself as a huge success. But of course it all kind of had to come tumbling down because she still hadn't actually dealt with her demons. She still hadn't dealt with the central fact that she was looking to other people, to strangers, for her own self-acceptance, and she was never going to be able to get past that until she learnt that. But it took getting to her absolute lowest point for her to realise that and to come back. And like learning that she was anorexic, like I never knew that. I never knew that she had like such thoughts around food, and like her actually coming out and talking about that on the documentary, it must be such a good thing for lots of people, because it makes you feel like you're not alone, and even the most successful people in the world go through these very human troubles. There was that line, there's always a standard you're not reaching, she said. She was like, if you're too thin then you haven't got the ideal bum, but if you've got that ideal bum then your stomach's too big. It's like an impossible lose-lose situation, and she was losing, and I'm glad that she managed to come through that and heal from that. But it really did take you know, really her going to her worst place. And then, of course, that all kind of coincided with the second bout of Kanye West bullshit, with the now debunked leaked conversation from Kim and Kanye. That instigated something that then sent the media into a spiral of hate, which basically was built off of kind of sexist tropes, off of the fact that as soon as a woman speaks her mind and as soon as a woman kind of doesn't just go along with things, suddenly it's like, oh, she's annoying, oh, she's a bitch. And it just became a maelstrom. She'd become such a successful woman, and because of that, people had to tear her down. Think about that, and think about when was the last time that happened to a man in the industry? You know, but the problem was that her self-worth was still built upon a love from people on the internet and people in the crowds, and suddenly she wasn't making them happy anymore. She was trying her best, but she was completely out of control of the narrative. And the problem is that when all of your worth is based on what other people liking you, what happens when people don't like you? What happens when the world just decides that they hate you, you know? And it just made her completely disappear. I think it was one of those things that, like, she needed a reality check in a way. She needed something that was gonna reveal to her that she'd built all of this self-worth upon shaky ground, you know? Because she'd put her self-worth on other people, it meant that other people had the control to destroy her happiness. And as soon as that kind of went south, she was broken, and I think she needed to learn that. Hearing some of the stuff that people were saying about her was just so disgusting. Like some of the media, like them all gossiping about her sex life and like saying, oh, you're gonna come back with more than a trophy, you're gonna be coming back with many men, I assume. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, I understand that her career was built off of her talking about her past relationships, but at what point did that become she's a slut and she sleeps around? I'm sure that, like, the reason that she probably did date quite a lot of people in that time was because she was falling and she was still growing up. People in their 20s who go through that normally don't have the entire media ticking off every single thing and like keeping track of every single thing and criticizing you for it. Like, it's just disgusting, really. And like, I think it really shows us that we as a society have a long way to go in terms of like how we treat people and how we treat women, especially in regards to their personal lives and regards to their romance and to their sex lives. It's not good, but I hope that, like, having gone through this with a few celebrities and having gone through the Me Too movement, I hope that we've got somewhere with, you know, with all that. Okay, so aside from all of that, in terms of like the music and everything, I really loved how it filled in a lot of details behind Reputation. So she disappeared after all the stuff went south with Kanye and with the media. She went into hiding basically and started writing this album. Like, she describes it as being alone and bitter and like a wounded animal, and you can hear that in the album. Like, it starts off like she's kind of biting back and kind of being like, "Ugh, get away from me." But as the album develops, you can hear a healing process. We talked about this in my Reputation reaction, check it out if you haven't seen it already. And like, all this kind of background into how it was written just really fleshes that out so much more. It helps me to really understand like how intrinsically the music was connected to her mental state. Oh my god, and I've just written "I love you" mouthed OMG when she's singing what was it, Call It What You Want to Joe, and she mouthed like, "I love you." Oh my god, I was like, yeah. It's so beautiful to see that, actually, to see more of that, of her actually falling in love, and they captured it so intimately, and to show us, like, I really feel like I've been let in, you know. I loved seeing that. It was beautiful. I love seeing all the behind the scenes stuff. So her writing Getaway Car with Jack Antonoff was a standout moment of the documentary. Oh my god, that moment when she got the lyric in Getaway Car live on camera, I was just like, oh my god, put the money in the bag and you stole the keys. Oh my god, I just love that song, and I love seeing the behind the scenes of it. It's just, it's my favorite thing. But yeah, seeing her kind of come out the other side of that and be so much healthier, it was great to see. And like the way she talked about the music and the way she talked about Joe, she just seems so much happier and healthier. She built up a way to love herself that wasn't based on the approval of other people. And I think that was seen when she found out that she didn't get Grammys for Reputation. She was like, you know what? I'm okay with it. It's fine. It's fine. Like, she doesn't need that anymore. She has her own self-worth and happiness, and it's built upon what she has with Joe. They don't need anybody else, but because they're happy together. Being in love with him taught her how to love herself. And I think going back to Reputation as an album again, that really comes across in the music so much. Yeah. The next thing she talked about was the sexual assault case. Like, hearing her talk about that, it was such an ordeal for her. But I love how she sued him for $1 as a way of kind of saying, actually, it isn't about the money. It's about me standing up for myself and me standing up for all those people who aren't believed. The fact was that there were like 7 witnesses and it was caught on camera, and yet she still had these lawyers telling her that she was a liar and fighting for this other guy who, you know, there was proof, it was right there. And then she said that, like, you know, can you imagine what would have been like if it was just her word against his? You know, and that is the reality for so many people. And the fact that they're blamed, oh, you should have stood away from him, you should have blah, blah, blah. No, he shouldn't have done what he did. He should not have put his hand up a young girl's skirt. It's just like madness, absolute madness. But I feel so proud of her for actually like really standing up for it and being actually, no, I'm not gonna take this lying down. I'm gonna stand up for all the people that don't have the power and the money to actually stand up for themselves. And really, she kind of inadvertently became part of this much bigger movement. And I loved how in the documentary they then showed her like talking about it and then singing Clean right afterwards, like the year after. Even though that song wasn't written about that, it's a really brilliant example of how music can kind of really mean something in different contexts, you know, and I loved that. That was beautiful. All the stuff then with the sexual assault case then brings us on to the kind of her expressing her political viewpoint, and I think this is kind of what is the kind of conclusion of this kind of story that we've gone through the documentary. So we learned about who she was at the beginning, we learned about how she went to rock bottom and had to build herself back up again, and now I think the end, the kind of ramifications of all that is this kind of political, this new kind of political voice that she's found. So they preface it by talking about the Dixie Chicks and how they were basically like completely ruined for one thing they set out against Bush. So you can see where she come from, like how she kind of grown up basically being told that she shouldn't share her own political opinion and shouldn't put it on other people, which is definitely like, I agree with that to a certain extent, but you can still state your opinion without putting it on other people, you know? And I think that was what she wasn't getting. So it really is a big moment for her. That moment when she's having the argument with her team, basically saying, I need to say this, I need to stand up for this. It's like, you know, this is my state and I actually have the power to do something and I'm sitting idly by, and them arguing because they're afraid for her safety. It's a really real moment. She feels like if she were to like not say something against this homophobic person in government who was against women's rights, you know, if she didn't stand up and do something, how could she go to a pride and say happy pride when she actually had the power to do something and didn't do it? So I totally like agree with her on that point. And I think that looking back, I think she needed to do it because I think she would have lost all faith that people had in her. People wouldn't trust her. It seemed like she made such a big difference. It was a shame that it didn't quite turn around. But now looking back, you know, 2 years later in America, the whole landscape has changed and Trump is out of the White House. I'm sure that a large part of that was down to Taylor Swift and other people, part of the Me Too movement, really coming out and actually saying, you know what, these people are not standing up for our rights. They're not standing up for basic human rights, and this is not okay. And it really seems that it was such a healing thing for her, another kind of healing thing for her. And I love then seeing how that kind of then ties into Lover. So obviously Lover's the next one to react to. I've like obviously now heard like a bit of like the behind the scenes, and I've heard a few bits and bobs from Lover, but it really seems like it is much more of a political place for her to be. So I'm really looking forward to doing the full reaction for you guys soon. But what I love about that is that it's all come full circle. It's all about the music once again, and I think that like her political standing and her having found her own self-worth and self-happiness with Joe all kind of came together in this next album. And I think that is kind of like the center of what Taylor Swift is as an artist. Everything comes together with the music. Each album is like a tentpole in her life, you know, what she's learned up to this point and like what she's going through, to the point where you look back at the albums and you can see every single stage. And with Lover, it's really her coming into herself, and it's kind of a new era for her as a person and a new era for her as a musician. And now, having seen Folklore and Evermore, a huge sense of maturity comes over from those albums, and now I can see why. The story has been filled in right up to that point for me. Now I can see how she got to that place, and I really love getting to know her as an artist. And it all really kind of came full circle with her returning to the MTV Awards stage, winning, having a whole posse of people with her so that no one was going to take that mic from her. Kanye was not going to get in her way this time. It's a direct comparison to where she was before. The first time she was there, she was young, and a man took advantage of the situation and kind of sent her on this spiral that took her right down to the lowest she's ever been. And upon building herself up from that bottom place, she's then gone and won herself another award and she's back in that place. It's really poetic, really, isn't it? Like, and the fact is that she's standing on that place and she's now using that platform for good. It's just all come together, and I love that. I feel like my Swiftie fan meter has just jumped up another notch. I swear, like by the time I've done my Lover and original album reaction, I'm gonna be like 100% Swiftie. I really love discussing these kinds of things with people, so make sure to leave a comment if there's any other things that you think I missed or any opinions that you have on the whole situation. I'd love to see what you guys gleaned from watching the documentary. But yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more Taylor Swift content, but also loads of other videos. There's actually a very special reaction this Friday. I'm really going to be sharing a piece of myself with you, so please look forward to that. And I've got some brand new other stuff planned on the horizon, so I'm quite excited about all of it. Yeah, so make sure to subscribe so you're the first to watch all the videos. Cool. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you again soon. Bye.